don't get to see the rejected versions of these tales. We only get to see the best version. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tara East. I'm a writer, blogger, YouTuber, and the author of the mystery novel Every Time He Dies. And in this week's video, I want to talk about comparison. Now, one of the most painful periods of writing is when you're actually just starting. When you're first developing your craft and you realize that there is so much you don't know in terms of technique and terminology, but even also your own creative process. There is a unique pain that occurs when you recognize how much there is to learn and that you are only just beginning, even though you long to be in the middle of things. Beginning a writing practice can be especially hard in the beginning when your first attempts of writing look nothing like the novels that inspired you to write in the first place. And this is where new writers make their first mistake, by comparing their work to other people's work. But unfortunately, comparison is not only limited to new writers. We all suffer from this, no matter what the level of our career is or what stage of the writing process we're in. We understand intellectually that our first drafts are supposed to be bad, and yet we still feel disappointed when that first attempt at a story doesn't resemble the edited, bound, and available for purchase books that are on shelves in bookstores. You know, unfortunately, you can't go into your local independent bookstore and say, you know, I'd really like draft 3 of A Song of Fire and Ice, and maybe draft 2 of The Overstory. We don't get to see the rejected versions of these tales. We only get to see the best version. Comparing your work or where you are at in your author journey is a losing game, and it's one that can really deplete your energy and motivation. Hearing at age 35 that Stephen King had published 25 books by age 28, slight exaggeration, is unlikely to fuel your creative fire. Instead, you'll probably decide that it's too late. You're behind the 8 ball, and who the hell would want to read a novel written by you, old fart? In one way, literature is seen as inaccessible, stuffy, and pretentious. And in another way, claiming your desire to be a writer can come across as foolish, childlike, irresponsible, unrealistic, and avoidant. Comparison feeds these underlining narratives. We say, I'm not a real writer because I don't have a publishing deal, I don't have Stephen King on speed dial, and I don't pay my mortgage with book money. Comparison is often worse when we ourselves are not creating, as our lack of personal productivity and progress becomes evidence against us. We might look out there and see, oh God, she's published another book? Didn't she just release one a month ago? How is that even possible? Meanwhile, I haven't touched my manuscript in like 6 months. Creative comparison can be doubly destructive whenever we strongly admire somebody else's work, or when somebody publishes something that is kind of similar to what we're working on. In both these instances, it is all too easy to give in. Thoughts like, they are so much better than me, or they're doing the same thing as me, only better. Or you might think, well, I can never write about a wizard school or teenage monster hunters now. Yeah, because no one ever wrote about that before. To move forward, we need to accept ourselves for where we are in our writing journey and how developed our skills are. Now you have to sort of notice that both of these components are highly nuanced. To move forward, we need to accept ourselves for where we're at in our writing journey and how developed our skills are. Now, of course, those two aspects will be completely different for every person. You may be really great at plot, but maybe your characters all kind of sound the same. Or maybe you can come up with really great premises or concepts, but you're kind of self-conscious about your vocabulary. Sometimes comparison can be a good thing. It can show you what is possible in a story by highlighting your own weaknesses that maybe you were unaware of, or it can serve as an inspiration by giving you something higher to strive for. One writer's use of language or description, or maybe their structure, could inspire you to lift your own game. For For example, Eleanor Caton's work has really inspired me to be more specific about character description and to spend a little bit more on this detail because she does it so well. While it's easy to fall into the trap of comparison, measuring our beginnings against other people's middles or endings, it is important to remember that writing is an activity with no expiry date. You can only grow with time and practice as you read more books or write more stories. There is no rush or need to compare. It's okay to go slow and to stick to your own lane. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Do you compare your work or where you're at on the writer's journey to other people? Do you complain about how you'd like to be further along in your career? Does comparison look a little bit different for you compared to how I discussed it here? I'd love to know, so please leave your comments below and tell me all about it. Now, if you'd like even more writing advice, you can check out the other videos on this channel, or of course, go to taraeast.com and dive into the archives. While you're there, be sure to join my email newsletter, link below, because when you do, I'll send you a free gift. Yay! And you'll receive a weekly newsletter straight to your inbox every single week, containing links to that week's blog and video, a short letter by me. I'll also share some resources I've discovered that week, and an inspiring quote, among a few other little goodies. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. Stay safe, stay calm, and keep writing because the world actually does need more books. See you next week.